Hey there, EB here on the Anything But Bland weekly wrap up. Sorry, I'm a little late. I got tied up. I was dictating a letter and I lost control of the time. It's Friday. It's sunny out. It's a good day. I'm starting to feel better about my knee replacement surgery. I think I made some real good progress. I will return to work for a couple hours a day this week and I've been going to the gym and taking care of being careful, taking, the necessary steps to keep progressing without overtaxing my knee. So I'm pretty happy about it. Um, a pretty exciting day for Catholics around the world, certainly Catholics in America. Uh, Even though I'm Jewish, I'm very excited about the Pope uh, being from Chicago, graduating from Villanova, which was really close where I grew up, a big Villanova basketball fan. Um, Seems to be a wonderful guy. It's the first American Pope. I didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think it ever was going to happen. I certainly didn't think it was going to happen after last week when President Trump, as a joke, sent around the photo of him dressed as in the papal outfit as him portraying as the new pope. But you know, I was listening to the news, and the Pope Leo the 14th's brother said that before the conclave started on Wednesday or Thursday, that he spoke with his brother the night before, and the brother said, what should I call myself? And he said Leo, and they thought it was going to be Leo the 13th, and they didn't want the number 13, even though Leo the 13th was a very compassionate pope at the end of the 19th century. And so, he is, by all accounts, a wonderful man, certainly follows the doctrine. After Pope Francis was appointed cardinal by Pope Francis, was put as head of the bishops who would be named and researched by the Vatican before they would be named as bishops in 2023, and relocated to Rome from Peru, where he was for 10 years a bishop and then ultimately a cardinal in Peru. He speaks Portuguese and Italian. And I think he's going to be a pope that wants an inclusive church, similar to Pope Francis, continue to advance the right of women to participate in the hierarchy of the church and certainly in positions of power. So I really think it's a great day for the world. I think it's a great day for Catholics. And so I'm very excited. I didn't want them to select a pope that would return to the more rigid doctrinaire of the Catholic Church, and looking for the church to continue to evolve as the needs of the flock evolve. So I thought that was really great. Um, One thing that is really in the news a lot is the tariffs, the yo-yo of the tariffs, determining which country is going to get the worst end of the stick on tariffs imposed by Donald Trump since Liberation Day on April 2nd. Earlier this week, President Trump met with the new Prime Minister of Canada, and Canada said he said that Canada is not for sale, will never be for sale. And President Trump didn't like that. And he said, never use the word never. And he talked about also in his interview with Kirsten Welker on NBC Meet the Press, he said some pretty curious things. One, he didn't out rule rule out taking Greenland by force. He also said that it is a president of the United States. He's not sure whether he has to follow the Constitution. He's not a lawyer. Uh, he raised his hand and took an oath that says he would faithfully follow the laws of the state, United States, as well as the Constitution. So, thought that was a cagey answer. He also gave another cagey answer when he said, and when he was asked, doesn't the Fifth Amendment provide that any person on United States soil is entitled to due process? The question is, how much due process? And I don't think that immigrants are entitled to the same amount of due process as United States citizens, but they're certainly entitled to due process. And that's something that can be litigated in the courts. What shouldn't be litigating is, do they have that right? And President Trump answered that he didn't it wasn't his position to say whether they had that. He has lawyers that would say that position. So again, that was a cagey answer. The other thing he said was he is not going to run for a third term. So there has been a lot of speculation about what's going to happen in 2028. And he said that he thought the heir apparents for him would be J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, which I think were really good answers. I think Marco Rubio, obviously, he's uh, a different Marco Rubio as a Secretary of State and head of national security than he was as a senator because of the loyalty and allegiance he has to show to the president. But I think he could be a very good selection for the Republican Party going forward after President Trump leaves office after 2 terms. Um, he entered into a trade agreement, not a signed treaty, but a trade agreement with England this week. It was to great fanfare, where there's going to be only a 10% tariff on Bentleys, Jaguars, Land Rovers coming in, not the high 25%. He thinks it's a fair agreement both for the United States that they could bring their goods into England. It's a small agreement. There's not much trade that happens between England and the United States, except for automobiles and some other things, maybe some clothes. But the United States auto manufacturers, Ford, Chevrolet, GM, and Jeep, are all concerned because a lot of the parts of the United States come through Canada and Mexico, which are going to be subject to 25% tariffs or higher. And so there's an advantage given to England on the cars that will be imported and that they actually could be less in purchase price. Um, he talked about today lowering the tariff against China unilaterally, but he said he wouldn't do it. But from the current 145 to about 50%, he thinks that would be more appropriate and more in line. I think he's getting real heat from Walmart, Target, and the other retail stores. But just understand that if it's still 50%, then a $29 doll that you would be buying for um, some your kid at Christmas could end up being $40 or $42 or $44, which is a really uh, big increase in the purchase price. Um, Interesting this week, some famous and well-known restaurants in Washington, D.C. are being raided by ICE in the morning. And a lot of the workers are having to show their identification cards. And we all know that in many of the restaurants around the United States and some of the fast food places, that there are illegals that are working that have an identification, but they don't have proper documentation to show that they have a right to be in the United States. In fact, Nora O'Donnell, who used to be the anchor of the CBS News, Evening News, her husband that owns a 4 or 5 star restaurant called Chef Jeff had his restaurant raided. So first, we've heard that restaurants are being raided. We can be pretty sure if they wanted to go in any neighborhood where homes were being constructed, and they would do the same thing to contractors, that they would have a lot of people to pick up. Just so everyone knows, Obama ran up $9.7 trillion of national debt in 2 terms. In Trump's first term, he ran up national debt 7.8 million, and that was in 1 term of our $36 trillion debt. 7.8 trillion he ran up. Uh, Trump also said today that he could see the high end tax being raised from 36% or 37% to 39.5% for individuals that make over a certain amount of money, whether it's $2 million or more. I do agree with that. That's the first time that I've ever heard of a Republican saying they were going to raise taxes. He has to raise taxes to pay for a lot of these programs that he has because they're so important. He said that he was signed an executive order saying that we're going to have a Columbus Day coming back. We do have Columbus Day already. There were some other executive orders signed today. Again, Charles Barkley came out last night against transgender men competing against women. I am 100% behind Charles on that. I am 100% for homosexual behavior. I'm 100% for transgender if that's what you want to do. you have that right. But involving sports, I do agree that men should not be competing against women in sports. I think that's a big, big issue. Um, Again, there's 20 deals on the table, according to the administration, regarding tariffs. So we shall see if there was going to be an agreement. I thought the first agreement, as we were told by Scott Besson, was that there would be an agreement with India. Scott Besson, I don't think is the greatest Treasury Secretary. I heard him speak earlier this week, where he was asked, "What would you say to children if they only get $2 for Christmas instead of 10?" And he said, "I would tell them that they're doing their part to change the economy for the United States, that it's going to be better for their children and their grandchildren." And it occurred to me, can you imagine saying that to a 4-year-old kid, uh, trying to explain the economy to a 4-year-old kid? So I think he's a little tone deaf. Um, Robert F. Kennedy, for instance, just came out and said that he didn't believe that Sirhan Sirhan was the killer of his father, Robert F. Kennedy, in 1967. Sirhan Sirhan, I think, is 83 now, and he's going to come up for parole next year. The majority of the Kennedy family disagrees with Robert Kennedy on that, um, which is really interesting to me. Um, Trump said in that interview that it would be okay if we entered into a short recession because of the benefits in the long run. That's the first time again that I heard a president ever say that it would be okay for us uh, to enter into a recession. Earlier this week, Donald Trump listened to uh, Laura Lumen. Laura Lumen, she's the person who has the purple hair. She was the one who ran for the House twice, and she's not allowed on Air Force One, not allowed in the White House, but she has Trump's private number. And she got a number of national security people fired, as well as Mike Waltz, who was fired as national security administrator and then sent over now to be the ambassador for um, the United Nations. Interesting, she was very instrumental in getting the new Surgeon General, uh, who Trump put up to be nominated to be Surgeon General, to have her nomination withdrawn. Laura Lumen said that she shouldn't become Surgeon General because she was a proponent and an advocate for COVID vaccines. So it seems that Robert Kennedy and now Trump don't want a Surgeon General that would advocate for vaccines for pandemics such as COVID, or maybe vaccines for other illnesses such or diseases such as polio or something of that nature. So that's another interesting thing. Ed Martin, who was slated to be the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. Remember, District of Columbia is not its own state, doesn't have its own rights, is a federal enclave. Ed Martin was a guy that was at the January 6th insurrection, didn't participate inside, but represented a lot of the defendants in the insurrection who were criminally charged. He didn't disclose certain things to the Senate, and Tom Tillis, who is the ranking Republican on the committee that would have approved him, came out this week and said he wasn't going to approve him. Um, Trump withdrew his nomination, but put him in a better position, I think, for him to do what he wants to do, which is um, deal with government overreach in the Justice Department and run a department for those that are targeting people like Trump, and he's going to have him prosecute people that Trump felt was prosecuting him. So I think that's a better position for Martin and not a demotion. And he named Jean Pirro. Jean Pirro was the former judge in Westchester, New York. She also was a district attorney for New York beginning in '93. She's been on Fox News since 2005. She's very smart. Certainly, she is an election denier, and I think as far as prosecutors go, she knows the law. It's probably a good selection if you're a hardcore MAGA Republican. So I think that's a choice that Trump made. That's a good choice if you again believe in the MAGA movement. Um, Trump. when he was running, he never said that we would have recessions or that we would have hard times. He never said that there would be 2 or 3 years where we're going to have to pay more for products or we're going to have to do without certain products because there's going to be supply chain issues. He said from day one we're going to be wealthy. So we're seeing a little bit of a shift in what his tariff plan is going to be. I don't think anybody knew what it was going to be. The markets certainly don't like it. The stock market has bounced back now that he's, backed off of some of his tariff beliefs. Um, the real issue for lawyers is, we have to stand up. If this administration is going to prevent us from representing certain clients, and if we do, then we're going to be denied access to federal buildings or federal clearance to get into a federal courthouse. That affects the right of anybody to have counsel of their choosing. I think it's targeting law firms and a judge in D.C., Beryl Howe, on behalf of Parkins Bow law firm, who was being targeted by executive orders because they had represented some people against Donald Trump, and they represented the government against some of the January 6th insurrectionists. This judge said it was unconstitutional for Trump's to target law firms that he doesn't like. She said it was a violation of the Sixth Amendment right to counsel, which is pretty interesting. On June 14th, we're going to finally see that military parade that Donald Trump wanted in his first term. It will be celebrating his birthday plus 250 years of our military. And there's going to be over 150 vehicles. I don't know if any are going to be tanks or Bradford type vehicles, which have tank tracks on them, 6,000 soldiers, and 50 helicopters. In these tight budgetary times, I think that's going to be something that we don't really have to do. I can understand why Trump wants to do it. It's also Flag Day, so that's going to be pretty interesting. Elon Musk said that he was going to cut $2.5 trillion from the budget when he started Doge. So far, though, they've only said that there's $160 billion of cuts, and we haven't seen exactly any supporting detail of what those cuts are. That's just him giving a round number. But please understand that even though there's $160 billion of cuts, this is going to be offset by additional spending for unemployment benefits, for retirement, for paying out severance, and settling lawsuits and lawyer fees and healthcare costs for these individuals that will go on. So even though there's $160 billion of cuts that he said that Doge has done, there's offsetting more expenditures that are going to come back on board. Real interesting. The Sean Diddy trial starts this week. We went through jury selection. They think that the first witness is going to be his former girlfriend that started this whole thing. Remember, in November, I think of 2020, it was 2023 or possibly 24. Um, she filed a lawsuit alleging about the 2016 video beating that we saw in Vegas Hotel, which is absolutely horrifying, and some other things. And the day after she filed her lawsuit, it was settled for something like $20 million. She's going to be the first witness. It's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. I think he's going to end up getting a lifetime sentence like R. Kelly did. Um, the NBA basketball playoffs are going on right now, and they're just extraordinary. Home teams are losing. Uh, the best in the division teams are losing. Cleveland Cavaliers have lost to the Pacers in their opening round playoffs. The Celtics are down 2-0 to the New York Knicks, a very pesky team. Jalen Brunson, Brunson Burner, there are three Villanova players on that team. Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, as well as Mikal Bridges. They all played with DiVincenzo, who used to be with the Knicks, that's now with the Timberwolves. Villanova guys, they were down 20 points in game number one. They came back and won it. And then 2 nights ago in Boston, they were down 20 points in the fourth quarter. They came back and they won it again. Boston is living and dying by the 3-point shot. I think there's something for like 17 for 100. They certainly have the better players in Brown and Tatum and White, Derek White, Horford, Porzingis, and than the Knicks do. But the Knicks have spirit. I think also Thibodeau's a better coach. You're seeing that the Cleveland Cavaliers have lost to Indiana. You're also seeing that the Timberwolves um, uh, have their hands full. I think they're going to have their hands full with Golden State, and also Denver beat OKC, who's the favorite to win the West in the first game, but they lost by Denver lost by something like 30 or 40 points in the second game. So I'm real anxious to see how the Sean Diddy Combs trial comes out. We're also following the Skinner Boyd matter in Horry County. Skinner was killed on a car chase for 10 miles after a road rage incident. He made a turn on a road, and Boyd turned, and there was a gunfight, and Boyd and his passenger in his car, Boyd shot and killed Skinner, and they said that Skinner was the aggressor. Now this case is starting to open up, and it's starting to look like there was a cover up by the Horry County Police Department. We talked about that on our COJ episode number 129 that we recorded this morning, and that'll be out on Monday. So that is the weekly update. It's not too long this week, which is good, but really happy about the Pope, and I want everybody to have a good weekend. So he be out.